Hello class. I would like to go over some general essay writing skills that will help you write a fantastic looking paper. Here you see the instructions for the paper pulled up from D2L. This assignment may be a short paper, but it's a very specific kind of assignment. It's an analysis, which means you don't put any of your own opinion into the paper. So what I'm going to do now is go through some of the things that you see here, the basic instructions for the looking paper. I've heard from a lot of you about the venue and the work of art that you've chosen, but if you haven't done that yet, be sure to let me know. As it mentions here, this paper is an exercise in visual observation, describing what you see and using the art vocabulary that we've learned. You're writing a clear and precise visual description of an image. Again, you'll be using chapters 4 and 5 from your textbook, the visual elements and design principles. Now, there are many questions here and many different elements, such as line, color, value or light and shadow, texture, space, the overall design elements for the composition. There are far too many questions here than you could possibly answer in a 2 to 3 page paper. So what you're going to want to do, and this is entirely up to each student, you have the complete freedom to write about what you think is most important in the artwork that you've chosen. If you choose a painting, you could talk about color, if there is color. You could talk about texture, and you could talk about line. You have the choice to write about any of the elements that you would like, the ones that you feel stand out the most, make the most impact, because you can't possibly write about all of the elements. My suggestion is that you probably choose 3 elements. You'll have 1 paragraph on each element, 1 paragraph about line, 1 paragraph about color, and, for example, 1 paragraph about texture. And maybe the 4th paragraph would be about the overall composition, the way that all of the elements are put together, the overall design. So the format of the paper is 2 to 3 pages. All the instructions are given right here, and you have your rubric on how I'm giving you points for completing the assignment. Again, meeting with the tutor is extremely important to writing a good paper. Now that we've looked at that, I would like to go over the idea of writing a good essay overall. We're going to be writing 2 papers for this class. This is the first one. The second one comes at the end of the semester. I'm giving you an example here of your typical model of a 5-paragraph essay. That's not to say that your essay will have 5 paragraphs. You may have 6, you may have 7, I don't know. However, you do want an introductory paragraph, and in that introduction, there are a few things that you want to include in this looking paper. First of all, you want to include where you went. If you went to the Tucson Museum of Art, if you went to the U of A Museum of Art, if you went to the DeGrazia Gallery, that should be in your introduction. You also need to have a basic identification for your artwork. The artist, the title of your artwork, which should be either underlined or in italics, the date of the artwork, and the medium, if it's oil on canvas or a marble sculpture or what have you. You can include, and this is the only place you can do it for this paper, 1 sentence on the subject matter. You could say, I chose this painting at the Tucson Museum of Art. It's by this particular artist. This is the title. And it depicts a boat on the water during a sunset. Now, that sentence discusses the subject matter of the artwork. which is really not a part of this paper. So that's really the only place you'll want to discuss the subject matter, is maybe with one sentence in the introductory paragraph. The last thing you definitely want to include is a thesis statement. That's very important. Your thesis statement will vary, but this is how you'll compose it. If you look at this painting and you've decided to write about color, line, and texture, let's say, for your 3 elements, your thesis statement will say, in the following paper, I will discuss line, color, and texture, and the overall design composition of this artwork. Now, if you decide to talk about value or space or any number of other elements, that's what you would put in your thesis statement. But you want to tell me, as the reader, exactly what you will be discussing in each of your paragraphs. So just list those in the thesis statement. So the body of your work, like I said, each paragraph should be on one element. Let's say the first paragraph discusses line. It's great to be able to discuss line in the work of art. You'll want to say line is very bold, or it's very timid, or it's very thick and heavy, or whatever it is that you observe in your artwork. You'll also want to say where you see that. If it's very bold, tell me where. Tell me where it leads your eye. Tell me what part of the artwork has bold line. Is it bold all the way through, or is there some part of it that becomes much thinner and lighter line? So you really want to provide proof and evidence of what you're discussing by really telling me in great detail what you see in the artwork. That goes for each of the paragraphs. If you see color, I want to know if it's complementary color, if it stands out, if there's high saturation, if there's lots of value, the color is very bright or it's very dark, unsaturated. Do you see analogous colors? How does color work? Tell me where you see it. You can name the objects. You can say, I see a bright orange jacket on this person. Now, you don't want to go into the subject matter. The only reason you're mentioning the jacket is so I can know where you see it. The only time you want to mention content or subject matter is if you are actually discussing an element, such as color or line. So, those are going to be the 3 or 4 paragraphs in your essay. I do suggest, it seems to work well for a lot of students, if you start out with visual elements and then in your last paragraph of the body, could be the 3rd or 4th, I don't know, whichever paragraph is the last part of the body of the paper, that you discuss the overall composition. How are all the elements composed? How are they organized within the work? Do you see a lot of visual rhythm? Do you see repetition of elements? Is there symmetry in the artwork, or is it asymmetrical? Does it seem proportional? Is it unified or varied? All of those compositional ideas, you could have one paragraph about that. Then you'll definitely want to have a nice strong conclusion to your paper. In your conclusion, you'll want to restate your thesis statement, but instead of saying, I will now discuss line, texture, and space, you would restate that, rewrite your thesis, and say, we have now discussed line, color, and space. I have shown you, etc., etc. This is the only place in the entire paper where you could maybe give your opinion. If you really liked the artwork, or really didn't like it, or thought some sort of interpretive thing about it, you will not want to say that anywhere in the paper except the conclusion. Perhaps the last sentence or two in the conclusion paragraph. You could actually give your opinion and say, I very much enjoyed looking at this artwork. It reminded me of a beautiful sunset night, or whatever. You don't want to put any of your opinion or any interpretive elements in any other part of the paper. So I hope that helps. If you have any questions, please email me. This instruction is up on D2L, and I'm also going to email people and give them some extra information. Thanks, and have a great paper.